Hello. I thought we'd do something fun today. I thought we'd do a little drawing. Now, I had done a drawing of Kylo Ren as a moody teenager a while back, and I think that pretty well establishes that I'm a pretty big Star Wars fan. So I thought it would be fun if we did another drawing in the Star Wars universe. And I've got my trusty sketch pad here. I've actually got another Star Wars sketch in here, but I'm going to do a different one today. Get that ready to go. This isn't going to fold over the way I would like it to, which means I'm going to have to make a little bit of adjustment here. This is cinema verite right here. This is the real deal. Now, as I've done in the past, I'm going to do the pencils here first. And then I'm going to switch the camera view so that you can see the drawing itself. Because right now when I'm doing the pencil, you wouldn't be able to really make out much anyway. So that'll keep that from looking weird. And I bought these little set of pencils, just very, very inexpensive. But they're really nice. They're dollar roundy ones. And I've even skipped my usually I use a mechanical pencil to sketch in the rough sketch, but I'm just going to use one of these guys to do it. And I've got a real favorite character today, and I've got a couple of references here that I'm going to be peeking at throughout the drawing because he's a pretty unusual fellow, shall we say. This is going to be none other than your favorite admiral and mine, Admiral Akbar. Now, I think it's really interesting that Admiral Akbar has become a bit of a cultural icon in Star Wars, just in general. And of course, he's become very famous for his line, which of course you immediately heard in your head when I said his name earlier, which of course is, "It's a trap!" But the interesting thing is that line, while it was, very memorable, and certainly, I remembered it, and everyone who saw Return of the Jedi when they were children remembers it, and it's one of those lines that stands out. It's one of those things that grew over time. Because if you were to ask people in, say, 1990, like several years after Return of the Jedi, about that line, they would kind of look at you like you were crazy. It simply wouldn't have the same resonance that it has today. The other line that I think of like that is the famous line from Predator, is when Arnold Schwarzenegger yells, "Get to the chopper!" That has become an incredibly iconic line, and apparently people will shout that at Arnold Schwarzenegger when he walks by now. But at the time the movie came out, it wasn't that big a deal. It just wasn't. And it's one of those things that over time, it just sort of became this sort of cultural touchstone, and it became a meme and, all of that kind of stuff. And that's definitely what has happened with Admiral Akbar, is that his notion of yelling out, "It's a trap," has definitely grown into this thing unto itself. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I was very excited when A Force Awakens came out, and there he was, your friend and mine, Admiral Akbar. Now, he just had, I think, maybe one, maybe two lines. I can't even remember. I've seen the movie 4 times. And when the Blu-ray comes out, you know that I'm going to be snatching that right up. But I was so excited to see him because he is actually my favorite character in Star Wars. Now, I know that seems a little silly, but you have to understand that when I say favorite character, I mean that in a different way than some people do, because I think that you can have a favorite character that goes beyond, rational sense, because obviously Admiral Akbar's character is not, shall we say, well-defined. He's not a well-thought-out character. He's not very deep or anything like that. He's a starship. He's an admiral, and he's a big fish. That's basically it. But there's just something about him that I find so iconic and so relatable and engaging that when a while back, my wife got me a painting, and the painting is of Admiral Akbar as a admiral from the our world's Admiralty, and it's delightful. If you Google it, Admiral Akbar, realistic admiral, something like that, it'll come right up, and it is delightful. We simply call him the Admiral when we look at the picture, and it has a place of honor in my studio. So if I'm ever doing one of these videos and you see a painting in the background, look very closely, and you'll notice that that's actually the Admiral, and that I'm such a big fan of him and really love that character, and that's why I love drawing him as I am doing now. I'm just trying to get in a few details. I don't want this to be some big production, but I do want it to be fun, and I do want it to be. I think if I can simply make something recognizable, that's always a big accomplishment for me. What I'm really trying to do in this particular picture, I want him to be looking down, and with his big fish eyes, obviously being a giant puppet head in the original mechanical puppet head, he did not have shall we say, a very great range of motion. And so that I'm going to have to use a little bit of artistic license in order to pull that off. Now, in this particular picture, the Admiral is sitting down in a comfy sofa seat, kind of a lounge chair kind of seat. And he's going to be... I almost forgot to give enough room for the lettering, and here I am in my earlier thing. I mentioned that the letters have to come first. Otherwise, you run out of room, which I almost did. I broke my own rule in doing so. But fortunately, I got lucky and was able to still add it in the top. And as you can imagine, this drawing is going to include a joke about it's a trap, but it's not going to be it's a trap, it's going to be a play on that, and it's something that you'll see when we get closer to showing you the drawing itself. And even though Admiral Akbar does not possess what we would call eyebrows, I'm going to give him a little bit of cartoon eyebrow here so that I can show his reaction a little bit more. There we go. We're actually getting pretty close to moving to the next stage. I do want to just add a few more details here. He's got those crazy huge oversized forearms, which is the crustacean look that he's got, which is so iconic for him. So easy when you're drawing to forget which way the thumbs are supposed to go. I certainly could get away with it with him by simply saying, well, he's an alien, so his thumb are on the other side, and that would technically not be wrong, but come on, I clearly would be messing that up. So we'll get him on there. That's pretty good. I want to do a little bit more work on his mouth. And then I think we're going to be about ready to move over to coloring it in. Now, in the past, I have done the coloring with... I give him a tongue. He needs a tongue. Every Admiral needs a tongue. In the past, I've used my markers, and I don't have the markers with me, one that I'm traveling today, so I'm not actually at home. But also my daughter has really taken to drawing with markers, and so I kind of let her keep a hold of those, and I got something for myself. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to take a quick pause, and when you next see me, we're going to be moving into the picture itself. Okay, here we go. Now, again, as you can tell, you can't really see a whole lot. And that is because, of course, I have not yet gotten the colors and the darker colors put in. But what I'm going to start to do is start to fill in a little bit of detail here. And I'm trying to get it so that you'll be able to see as much as humanly possible as I fill in these details. Unfortunately, the only really good angle I could get for the camera is slightly hiding it when I'm drawing with my hand, but I'm going to try to leave it uncovered as much as I can as I'm drawing, as we try to block in the lovely Admiral. He's got these little funny neck wattle kind of things going on there that are sort of crustacean-like. Now, I'm using these pencils. Unfortunately, I do not have a pencil sharpener, and it seems that some of these have been damaged. I flew in a couple of nights ago, and apparently they did not particularly care for being flown in pencils. And I do not have a pencil sharpener, but I do have a plan B. We're just getting started here on the Admiral, and don't you worry, I have a plan to make sure that we can finish this drawing. I want to get his arms a little more detailed, draw some of the little crags that are in his arm. He's got kind of imply the sort of like a scale, even though he really doesn't have scales. He's actually being more of like a crustacean. He doesn't really have scales. The one thing that is definitely true, though, is that his eyes are yellow. He definitely has yellow eyes. Even though in the movie it's more of an amber, it's a darker yellow, but I think we can be forgiven for that right now. And there's a few things that I do want to get in darker colors. We got to bring back particularly his nostrils. That's going to be more of a solid black. His funky fish nostrils. I think that we can take it on pretty good faith that the Admiral can breathe underwater. What do you think? Yes, I think so too. Now, his tunic that he wears in the movie, his Admiral uniform, is actually white. And of course, if I leave it completely white, it's going to not show up at all. So I'm adding a little bit of gray to give it a little bit of texture. Down here, he's got these little pouches that comes with his Admiral uniform that we're going to put in there. That is a good start. Now, what we want to do is we want to have his other things in the drawing be different colors. We don't want them to be too similar to him or his clothing or the thing that we're eventually going to show is in his lap. So I'm going to make the chair that he's sitting in blue. I'm going to do that just to give it a little bit of separation from the rest of what he's doing. Now, blue isn't crazy different than gray, but it should help make it stand out a little bit. I'll fill in a little bit here, give it a little bit of definition to that. Got his armchair there. Nothing like relaxing after a long day of being a rebel admiral. One of the things that I like especially you can see in Return of the Jedi, is that the ships of the Mon Calamari, because the giant ships that they use on the attack on the second Death Star are supposed to be Mon Calamari ships, and they are very angular. I'm sorry, not angular, the opposite of angular. They are very curved. They are smooth, and I think it is very reminiscent of what you might see of a race that had evolved from underwater. I think that was a really cool way of saying, in movies, of course, you always want to show, not tell. Now, this little guy here is actually a cat, and I need a good color for this cat, and for that, I'm going to move into these. I have never used these before. This is oil pastels, and I got a pack of 25 because I wanted to try something different than markers, because if I got more markers, my daughter is just going to steal them from me. So we're going to get these out of the package here. Do you like package noises? Because if so, you are in for a surprise. I'm actually going to use my teeth. Don't tell anyone. There we go. Get that started. Get these out. I'm really excited to try them. It's actually been quite some time since I've tried an entirely new way of drawing a medium. But what I need is I need a good color for this cat. I need this cat to be something different. And it looks like I'm going to need to go with my old standby, which is brown. I could make the cat black, but kind of want to make it brown. Now, this is going to be a much bolder line, the pastels. If I had a sharpener, I could sharpen them a little bit, but I kind of dig it, to be honest. I'm going to get that line in, and I'm going to go back and over the Admiral and add some details there as well. I like the idea that his tail is a slightly different color. Maybe that will be black. He's got a little black tip on his tail. There we go. And what I can do is kind of use the brown pencil to draw in a little bit of texture there. Good. I really do. A long time ago, several years ago now, back when I had my webcomic, which is a defunct, I made a comic for a bud of mine. His name is Mark Stokes, and he has an ongoing comic called Zombie Boy, which I highly recommend you check out. It's a wonderful gag-a-day type comic. It's very sweet, even though the main character is technically a zombie, and some of the other characters are various supernatural creatures. And I drew a picture of Zombie Boy, particularly because Zombie Boy has a pet. And that pet is a dog, a demon dog named Gore. And despite the fact that Gore is a demon dog, he's still a dog. He still acts in a very doggy-like fashion, just with little demon dog highlights, shall we say. And when he received it, he thanked me online, and he told everyone that I had made him a mixed media drawing. And I realized at that very moment what I had been doing. I had no idea what I had been doing. I'd just been sort of making it up. And ever since then, I've realized that's what I really like to do is mixed media, which is where I use pencils, I use markers, I use oil pastels, whatever it takes to get the drawing done. I like that. I like the way it gives it different textures depending on what you're doing. I'm going to give it a little bit of weight at the bottom here. And I've got some gray pastel here, so if I can get that out, I'm going to draw that in here. Oh yeah, I like the way that looks. I'm going to kind of detail out the Admiral's legs a little bit. I wondered when I started drawing if I was going to need to draw any Admiral legs, and I was pleased that I did not. I'm also really happy about these pastels because it has a lot of orange, which I desperately need for drawing the Admiral. I'm going to use this to kind of fill in make some of the lines, the outer lines, bold. Hopefully it's now kind of starting to take a little more shape for you as you get those bold lines. I've always been a fan of bold lines, and I like how they can show weight. They make something look just more solid when you've got a bold line. Of course, you want it to make sense. A lot of people are able to get much more interesting things with minimal lines or even no lines. A lot of people do what's called color holds, which is where you draw the border line is actually not black, which I suppose technically is what I'm doing right now with these. But I'm really enjoying the different colors that's coming off from these pastels. Like I said, I've never had the pleasure to work with them before. I'm actually going to throw in a little pure red there right up here just to give it a little bit of like almost a shadow from his sort of head cavity that he has there. I would like to, there's my black. I do want to show his mouth being mostly a solid black, but I left a little room there to put in a tongue because I think that's funnier. In general, tongue is funnier. You can put that on my tombstone. I don't know why you would do that. That would be a really odd thing to put on my tombstone. Now that I've had a chance to think about it, don't do that. Please don't put that on my tombstone. Let's get some eyeball coloring here. See if we can make his eyeballs show a little bit. I do love it when people can do the sort of eyeball shimmer really well, but that's never been a particular specialty of mine. But I think when we're said and done, I should be able to more or less show that the Admiral is gazing downwards. Let's see if I can get this pastel out. These guys are in here pretty good. You'll note that I'm not really looking at that black kind of smeared over there, but I'm not going to worry about it. I think it just gives it a little bit of character. When you don't worry about something, it suddenly doesn't bother you a whole lot. But I would like to add just a little something in that area up here where his eyes are. Give it a little more texture, a little more something. Now that I'm looking at his body, I really would like his body to be a little more defined. I'm going to come in with the good old black pencil, my old standby, because I just really want his body to pop a little bit more. I want it to be very clear that this is him. Of course, the other thing that I could have focused on was we can't repel firepower of that magnitude, which is his other big line, along with concentrate all fire on the superstar destroyers. And as I have mentioned, his head was basically just a giant puppet head that was recorded and moved with all kinds of cables and such. What is fantastic, though, is the original voice actor. Of course, you know what a big fan I am of voice actors. Was still alive when The Force Awakens came out. And that may not seem like that big a deal. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but he was not a young man when Return of the Jedi. He actually had a background in almost old-time radio. And so he was quite up there in years. But he came back and did provide the voice for Force Awakens. So that is the same voice for Admiral Akbar. Although, if they ever do need one, I am more than willing. I am more than willing to do so. Now that chair is really starting to look a little more defined and real. I do appreciate it when things actually look real. These pastels are really a lot of fun to draw with. They're very, very thick, so you do have to be, you got to be sure what you're doing when you put them in. But man, they sure are pretty. I do like them. Let's see here. I want to be careful not to put in, I do want to leave some white for the Admiral's face, because it kind of shows a reflectiveness, the kind of like that almost his carapace is a little shiny. And I want to leave a little bit of that up there, especially at the top. If the light was coming down, it'd be striking the top of his head. I am the absolute worst of doing correct light placement, but I do like to get it a little bit right. And now the real question is this, is if I use the pastel, which is kind of nubby, will I be able to read his writing? And my feeling is no, I won't. If I had a lot more room, I might be able to pull it off, but I am concerned that if I go that way, it's going to disappoint me. So I'm going to stick with tried and true pencil and just really thickly pencil in his line. Now, one of the advantages of drawing on a white piece of paper that you haven't colored any other way is you do not actually have to put in a word balloon, or at least it's much easier not to, because you don't have to separate it from the colors outside. I do like to put something that indicates that it's coming from him, usually some kind of little word. This is called the tail. And now that I'm looking at it, I kind of want to give it a little bit of a jaggedy word balloon, because I think that will help give it a little more weight, a little more pizzazz. Make it stand out, because really at the end of the day, this is a single panel comic is what I'm effectively creating, because it does have the word balloon, and with the word balloon it is effectively making it a comic. And if the joke of the comic is not coming across, then it's kind of for nothing. Well, not for nothing. It was fun to draw, but you know what I mean. The more that I draw this, the more that his eyes don't really want to look down. So I think I can have him just being shocked and looking straight ahead. And that's what we call rolling with it. Sometimes your drawing simply will not do what you want it to do. And when it doesn't, you just roll with it. So the central premise of this is that good old Admiral Akbar has realized that a lovely little cat has laid in his lap. And so instead of saying, it's a trap, he's saying, it's in my lap. Oh, you know what I almost forgot? Exclamation point. Definitely need an exclamation point. Technically, I could have put several in there, but I don't think I'll do that. And I think we just about got this bad boy done up. If I had a really pale color, I might color in the background here, but I'm not going to do that, because since I don't have a pale one, it might be too distracting if it's a dark color. But I think we've got it in here. Now, what I want to let you know is the first person who asks in the comments section, I will mail this to you. It is free of charge. I'll pop it in an envelope. I've already sent, with the exception of the very first one that I made, which I think even might still be in the sketchbook. Every other one someone has asked for, and I have sent it to them. And the first person who asks me, I will send it to them. The only thing that stipulation is it must be in the United States, because I'm afraid dealing with international shipping is a big pain. I am sorry, because I've had some lovely conversations with people in Australia and in England, but I'm afraid it's just too much of a hassle. I'm sorry. But if you ask me that you would like this lovely mixed media drawing of Admiral Akbar, I will be happy to send it to you. And I hope that you keep enjoying Star Wars, that you keep enjoying this channel. And one more time, it's a trap!